There's a gas station on a stretch of highway in rural Nevada that has exactly one employee working the night shift every single night for the last 30 years. New hires rarely last more than one shift. The ones who do all say the same thing about their first night. At some point after 3 a.m., a car pulls up with its headlights off, and a voice comes from somewhere inside it, and you are never, under any circumstances, supposed to ask that voice where it's going. One young man ignored that rule on his very first night. He looked out that window when he wasn't supposed to. He is one of the only people in 30 years who lived to describe what he saw standing in that parking lot. Stay until the end, because the reason he survived at all had nothing to do with anything the rulebook told him to do. Caleb Nguyen was 21, halfway through community college, and drowning quietly under a stack of bills his family couldn't help him with. His scholarship application had been rejected 2 weeks earlier. His mother's medical costs were climbing. He needed a job, fast, and the only opening he could find on short notice was a night shift position at a gas station on Route 9. A long, mostly abandoned stretch of highway 40 minutes outside the nearest town. The kind of road most locals avoided driving after dark if they could help it. He mentioned it to his best friend, Marcus, on the phone the evening before his first shift, riding the bus out to the station. "That's the place on Route 9? Man, I told you not to even think about that station," Marcus said. "Nobody goes out that way at night anymore. There's something wrong with that road." "I know how it sounds, but I don't really have a choice right now," Caleb said. "I'll call you if anything's weird. I promise." "You'd better. Caleb. Call me the second anything feels off." It's an ordinary kind of desperation, the sort that pushes people into situations they'd otherwise avoid without a second thought. It's exactly why Caleb's story unsettles people who hear it. Nothing about him marked him for anything unusual. He simply needed the paycheck. The bus dropped Caleb at an empty stop directly across from the station just after 9 p.m. His phone rang as he crossed the lot. His new employer, an older man named Mr. Dawson, walking him through his first shift entirely over the phone. "You've got the keys, son?" "Yes, sir. I've got them right here." "Good. Unlock the office, and inside on the left, there's a drawer. Inside that drawer is an old notebook. I need you to read every single rule written in it before you do anything else tonight." "Rules? What kind of rules?" "The kind you follow exactly, without skipping a single one, and without asking me why. I'm going to turn my phone off after this call. Whatever's written in that notebook, that's what you follow tonight." "Understood." "Understood, sir." Caleb let himself into the small office, found the drawer exactly where he'd been told, and pulled out an old, weathered red notebook, its cover soft and cracked with age. Inside, in handwriting that looked decades old, were a series of rules that made no sense to him at first glance. Never ask a customer where they're headed. Fill the tank, take the payment, and let them go. If a car arrives with its headlights off, even in total darkness, do not ask the driver to turn them on. Simply fill the tank. If you are given money that feels unnaturally cold, place it in the old tin cash box on the shelf. Never the new one. After 3 a.m., lock every door and window and stay inside no matter what you hear. Do not open anything for any reason. Do not look outside, even through the curtains. If you hear a car horn after 3 a.m. that will not stop, you have already broken one of these rules. There is no longer any way to protect yourself. Caleb's hands were shaking slightly by the time he finished reading. He called Marcus immediately. "Man, you're not going to believe the rules in this place," he said, reading each one aloud. There was a long pause on the other end of the line. "Caleb, I think I know what those rules might actually be for," Marcus said quietly. "There's been strange stuff happening on that stretch of Route 9 for years. People stopped driving it at night for a reason. I think whatever's in that notebook exists because of whatever that reason is. You're telling me this station might be haunted? I'm telling you I want you to take those rules a lot more seriously than you're taking them right now." Around midnight, the station's exterior lights flickered twice, sharp and sudden, catching Caleb's attention through the office window. He watched them stutter unevenly for several seconds before a car rolled into view from the darkness beyond the lot. An old black sedan, its headlights completely off despite the total darkness of the surrounding highway. Caleb's pulse spiked. He remembered the rule immediately and forced himself to walk out to the pump without hesitation, without comment. "Fill it up," said a voice from inside the car. Flat, hollow, impossible to place as either male or female, seeming to come from everywhere in the cabin at once rather than from any single point. Every window of the car was tinted completely black. No interior light was on. Caleb couldn't make out a single shape inside. Only the voice. "Where's this road take you tonight?" Caleb almost asked, the question rising automatically to his lips out of pure instinct, before he caught himself, remembering the rule just in time, and swallowed the words back down. He filled the tank in silence, hands trembling, and stepped back to the window to collect payment. The window lowered several inches, and a hand emerged from the darkness inside. Pale, skeletal, unmistakably a bare hand of bone rather than flesh, holding several folded bills that Caleb, despite everything in him screaming not to, forced himself to take. The bills were freezing, far colder than the night air around them. The window rose. The car pulled away into the dark without its headlights ever turning on. Caleb ran back inside, hands shaking so badly he nearly dropped the bills twice before finally placing them, exactly as instructed, into the old tin box rather than the newer one sitting beside it. Desperate for something to steady his nerves, Caleb splashed water on his face in the small office bathroom and noticed, for the first time, an old, yellowed newspaper resting on the shelf beside the mirror. The date at the top read 1994. On the front page was a photograph of a highway accident. A charter bus, overturned, along with several other vehicles tangled together behind it on a dark stretch of road. The headline described a catastrophic multi-vehicle collision just after 3 a.m. on Route 9 that had killed every single passenger across 8 vehicles. Caleb's stomach turned. He called Marcus again immediately, reading him the headline. "That's it," Marcus said quietly. "That has to be it. Caleb, I think everyone who died that night is still out there. I think they never realized the accident actually happened. I think that gas station was the last stop before it did. So what do I do? You wait it out. Follow every rule exactly. I'm not hanging up this phone until you're done with your shift. I don't care what time it is." Caleb sat in the locked office for the next several hours, curtains drawn exactly as instructed, the old newspaper open in his lap, watching the clock crawl agonizingly slowly toward 3 a.m. At exactly 3 a.m., the office lights began flickering violently, then cut out entirely, plunging Caleb into total darkness. He stood frozen for several seconds before he began to hear the sound of engines. Many of them, one after another, pulling into the lot outside, followed by the low murmur of what sounded like dozens of people talking at once in the darkness beyond the window. He knew exactly what the rulebook said. He knew he wasn't supposed to look. But the sound of that many people gathering outside, in a station that should have been completely empty at that hour, on a road nobody drove after dark, proved impossible to ignore. Some desperate, curious part of him needed to know whether they'd simply leave without paying if he didn't check. He crept to the window, pulled back the edge of the curtain by a single inch and looked out. What he saw made him instantly regret it. The entire lot outside was filled with dark, human-shaped silhouettes, featureless except for a pair of faintly glowing green eyes on each one, drifting and murmuring among each other, entirely uninterested in Caleb's presence at the window, until the same black sedan from earlier pulled back into the lot, headlights still dark, and laid on its horn. It didn't stop. Every single shadowed figure turned at once toward the sound, and then toward the office window where Caleb stood frozen, and began drifting directly toward him. Caleb bolted from the window to the far wall, pressing his back against it, heart slamming against his ribs. The horn cut off abruptly. A moment of near silence followed, and then the office door began shuddering under the force of something slamming against it. Again and again, hard enough that the entire small building shook with each impact. Caleb, hands shaking uncontrollably, fumbled for his phone and called Marcus, who picked up on the second ring. "Marcus!" "Fill it up," said the voice on the other end. The exact same flat, hollow tone from the car outside, layered now with something that sounded almost like dozens of voices speaking in unison beneath it. "Fill it up. Fill it up. The pounding on the door continued, violent and unrelenting. Caleb's vision blurred, his knees buckled, and everything went dark. Caleb woke to the harsh glare of morning light through the office window. The entire room looked as though it had been torn apart. Papers scattered everywhere, the old drawer pulled fully out and overturned, a chair knocked onto its side. Outside, the lot was completely empty. No cars. No sign that anything unusual had happened at all, aside from the wreckage inside the office itself. Walking out into the daylight, still shaking, Caleb noticed something glinting on the pavement exactly where the black sedan had been parked the night before. A single old car key, tarnished with age, sitting alone on the asphalt. He was still holding it, staring at it in confused silence, when Mr. Dawson's truck pulled into the lot. "Congratulations, son," Dawson said, climbing out with a tired but genuine smile. "Most people don't make it through their first night out here. You did." "What exactly happened last night?" Caleb asked, his voice unsteady. "You didn't tell me any of this when you offered me the job. Would you have taken it if I had?" Caleb didn't answer. "I won't force you to come back," Dawson continued. "If you want to walk away right now, that's entirely your choice, and I won't blame you for it. But if you do decide to keep working nights here, I'll double your pay starting tomorrow. The rest is up to you." "I just want to understand what those rules are actually for," Caleb said. "What they mean." Dawson sighed, leaning against the truck. "Those rules exist to protect you, son. When people die suddenly, especially in an accident like the one that happened on this road, sometimes they don't fully register that they're gone. For them, the moment of their death just keeps looping over and over, and this station happens to sit inside whatever version of the world they're still trapped in. This was the last stop before that accident happened, back in '94. So every night, all of them come back here, fill their tanks, and set off again on a journey that never actually ends. The rules exist so you never accidentally remind them that their journey already ended a long time ago." "And the money? Why does it go in the old box?" "Take a look at those bills you were given last night," Dawson said. "They're not current currency, decades out of date. They still think they're paying with real money. The old box is simply where that money belongs." Caleb pulled the key from his pocket and held it out. "And this? I looked outside last night. I know I wasn't supposed to. I broke the rule." Dawson's expression shifted, something between surprise and quiet relief. "You looked out that window, and you're still standing here telling me about it?" "Yes, sir." "Then someone out there decided not to be angry with you. One of them, at least, has finally accepted what happened to them 30 years ago. That key is the proof. They don't need it to keep making that endless drive anymore, which means, somehow, seeing you was the thing that finally let them stop." "Why would that help them stop?" Dawson shook his head slowly. "I don't fully understand it myself, son. Even after all these years running this place, some debts just take longer to settle than others. Maybe all it took was someone finally looking at them and not looking away in fear." Caleb called Marcus that afternoon, apologizing for having passed out mid-call the night before. "Did anything happen? Are you okay? Please tell me you're not going back there," Marcus said. "I'm going back tonight," Caleb said quietly. "Are you out of your mind? After everything that happened?" "Some waiting never really ends, Marcus," Caleb said. "I think I understand that now better than I did yesterday, and I think I still have some waiting of my own left to do out there." Caleb still works the night shift at that station on Route 9 to this day. He has said, in the only interview he's ever agreed to give about that stretch of highway, that most nights now pass quietly. The same black sedan pulling in occasionally, the same flat voice asking for a full tank, the same cold, decades-old bills sliding into the same tarnished tin box. He has said he never looks out that window again after 3 a.m. Except once a year on the same date each time when he says he feels compelled. He still can't fully explain why, to lift the curtain just slightly, for exactly long enough to see one particular set of headlights, still dark, pull briefly into the lot before driving on. He has said that every single time, right before it pulls away, the horn sounds once softly and stops. If you were handed a list of rules with no explanation, and told your safety depended on following every single one, Would you actually follow all of them, or would curiosity get the better of you like it did Caleb? Tell us in the comments which rule you think you'd have broken first. And if this story stayed with you, there's another one waiting for you right here. About a family who still finds a single grain of rice on their daughter's grave every year, though no one has ever placed it there.